Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Jasmine, and welcome back for another weekly weigh-in vlog. For any of you who might be new here, I have been on a weight loss journey using the compounded GLP-1 medication tirzepatide since January 1st of 2024. I'm currently down right around 140-ish pounds. I share my weekly weigh-ins as well as other weight loss related content here, so if that's something you're into, be sure to hit the subscribe button. So today is Tuesday and I do my weigh-ins and shot days on Tuesdays. I am currently on 10 milligrams of tirzepatide, although I do plan to increase my dose. I'm thinking next week because I have one more dose of 10 milligrams before I open a new vial, and at that point I plan to increase to the 12.5. Today is Tuesday, June the 24th. Let's go ahead and just get right into the weigh-in. Last Tuesday on June the 17th, I weighed in at 205, and as of this morning, you guys, I weighed in at 199.8. Your girl has officially breached Wonderland. I honestly was so incredibly excited, and I actually breached Wonderland yesterday. So yesterday, because I've been weighing myself daily this whole month of June, yesterday I weighed in at 198.8 or 0.9, and that was the first time I've seen one on the scale. So today I'm up a pound from yesterday, but obviously it's just probably water weight, whatever. But that being said, I did lose 5.2 pounds for the week, and I say lose because I honestly do not believe I lost 5.2 pounds of fat. I feel like, again, water weight and hormone fluctuations. I was on my cycle my last weigh-in, so I know that all plays a role, but regardless, I'm down 5 pounds since my last week's weigh-in, and that brings my overall weight loss to 144 pounds. Like I said, you guys, I am super freaking stoked to finally be under 200 pounds. I know it's like by the skin of my teeth, but I am still counting it that I'm under 200 pounds. I remember like several months ago, I had said my goal was to get into Wonderland before I went to the Tyler, the Creator concert, which was back in March. It took me technically 3 months longer than I thought it would to get here, but I digress. We're here, and honestly, hindsight is 2020, and it doesn't really matter how long it took. And obviously I still have a ways to go, so yeah, we still have to keep trucking from here, but I feel like this is a big milestone for me. I have not been under 200 pounds since I was probably 19 years old, and so for the past decade I have been anywhere from 200 up to over 300 pounds. So yeah, I'm just really happy with this week's weigh-in. Moving on to side effects for the week. I know I said I wasn't going to include this section in every weigh-in vlog, but I did have some side effects this past week that I felt I wanted to talk about a little bit. So for the past week, I have been dealing with some serious constipation. Constipation is like probably one of the most common side effects of being on a GLP-1, and typically I was previously taking fiber gummies every day, and I feel like that was kind of helping to keep me mostly regular for the most part. However, I ran out of said fiber gummies, and so for probably about a couple days to a week, I was not taking any type of fiber supplement or anything like that, and boy did it become apparent that that is not okay for me. I definitely need some type of fiber supplement because this past week I had like painful constipation. That being said though, I have for the past couple days been taking these Belly Welly fiber supplement drinks. I stopped taking them for a few days, like I said, just because I ran out of the gummies, and I don't know, I was not on my A game, and I wasn't taking these. And so since I've started taking them though for the past probably maybe 4 or 5 days, I can say they have definitely helped with the constipation, just, yeah, it's gotten things moving, and I definitely feel like I'm gonna probably repurchase these, probably just a tub. I bought the variety pack because I wanted to try all the different flavors, and I think out of all of them, my favorite was probably the strawberry lemonade, so I might pick up a tub of that. But I think I definitely need something. The fiber gummies, like I said, I feel like they were helpful to an extent, but I will say that I noticed this did a pretty good job of clearing me out. Like, I feel a lot less bloated, and yeah, I think this is a well worth it supplement. So I just wanted to speak on that because I did say I would give an update about it. So moving on to non-scale victories for the week. Yesterday was leg day at the gym, and I decided I was ready to try to push myself a little bit. So I did bump up my resistance on the elliptical. Usually for the elliptical, I do a, like, the first number, I think it's the incline, is at a 10, and then the resistance I have set to 5, and I've been doing that for probably at least 6 months now, for a long time. So yesterday I decided to bump up the resistance to 6. I felt like it was time. I feel like my cardio has started to get pretty like easy for me to do, and I feel like that's when you know it's time to try to bump it up a little bit. So I did that. And then for my hip thrust, I added 10 pounds, so 5 on each side. I was previously doing a 45 and a 15-pound plate on each side, and so that's like 90, I can't do math, 120, and so I added a 5-pound plate to each side, so we are at 130 plus the bar itself, which I believe is 35 pounds. So that brings the total weight to 165, which is, I don't know if that's really good or not. Honestly, I don't know what other people are typically doing, but for me, that was good. And I definitely felt that. Like, I actually felt like I almost, I wouldn't say injured myself, but like I could feel my like butt muscle tensing up when I was doing it. So I had to be kind of careful with that. But yeah, that was my non-scale victory for the week. So in my little poll that I posted for my flower friends, my membership people to vote on this past week for a topic for today's video, basically there were 2 people that voted, and the majority of the votes were for the topic of how I got fat. And so that is what I'm going to be talking about today. This is just going to be kind of little story time, chit-chatty, chill video. I'm going to try to insert some pictures along the way if I'm able to find any. So let's get into it. So in my stream of consciousness, since I've been aware that I've been alive and a human, I think the first time I was ever aware of my body and the fact that I was a little bit chubby was honestly when I was maybe like 4 or 5 years old. I had a babysitter who was helping me to go to the bathroom or something, and I was wearing like jeans, and I just remember her like pointing out that I had like a red line on my belly from my jeans being a little bit snug on me, and I guess because I was sitting down or something, and she just kind of pointed it out and said something to the extent of, you know, you have that line because you're, I don't want to think she said fat, but like yeah, something along the lines of I'm chubby and that's why I have a line on my stomach. And yeah, thinking back to that, that was honestly so out of pocket. I don't know why she would say something like that to a 4 or 5 year old, but that is probably the first time that I can remember being actually made aware of my like own body in that way. Growing up from, you know, that age up into elementary school and then into middle school, I was always definitely like chubby. I wouldn't say I was extremely overweight. I was pretty active in elementary school. I did soccer for I think 2 or 3 years I was involved in like youth soccer, and aside from that I was always just pretty active in the sense that I liked to play outside a lot. I was always riding my bike everywhere around the neighborhood, and so I was relatively active. As far as like my eating goes, I would say, you know, I've always been a picky eater. I've talked about this even as an adult today. I would consider myself a picky eater with like a lot of food aversions, particularly with like fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. And so as a kid, obviously this was like tenfold what I was dealing with. I was definitely a really big picky eater, and my mom had a really hard time getting me to eat fruits and vegetables. And as far as my weight, I honestly wasn't super aware of my weight throughout like elementary or even middle school. The only time I do recall like weighing in during that period, I remember in 5th grade we had to do like the PE health fitness test or whatever, and basically they weigh you when they do all these other tests for your fitness. And I remember in the 5th grade I got weighed in and I was like 120 pounds, and I don't remember how tall I was at that point. I'm only 5'3" now, so I probably wasn't that tall at that time. But I remember at that point seeing that number kind of shocked me, because I didn't realize that I was like already over 100 pounds. And as a 5th grader, I don't know, I felt like I just thought at that point in my mind, I felt like I was just huge, you know, especially compared to a lot of my friends at the time who were a lot smaller than I was. And obviously like kids are all different at different like growing stages, and some of my friends were really short and scrawny and like tiny kids still, but some of my friends were taller and going through puberty already and going through growth spurts. So it's like there's a whole range, I guess, of growth happening at this age. But yeah, for me, I definitely felt self-conscious and felt like I was bigger than a lot of the other kids in my grade. Once I got into high school, I remember my weight ranging anywhere from, I want to say like the 150s to 170s. My freshman year of high school, I was pretty chubby, and to the point where I actually went on like a weight loss journey the summer between my freshman year and my sophomore year, and I did lose a little bit of weight. I don't remember exactly how much, but I know that I got down to my lowest like recorded weight that I can remember, which was in the 150s. So my freshman year of high school, I did start marching band. I joined marching band, and I did that my freshman, sophomore, and junior year of high school. And for those of you who don't know, marching band is actually very physically intensive, like especially in the summer heat and like band camp and stuff. Like it's very physically demanding. So I think doing that kind of helped to like stabilize my weight. Like I didn't gain a ton of weight during this time, those like 3 years that I was in it. And in fact, like I said, I did lose a little bit of weight going into my sophomore year. My senior year of high school, I ended up not doing marching band, and I started working. I think I did like the work program, so I got my first job, and I would leave school early to go work, and that was kind of what I did. So I definitely wasn't like as active, I guess, as I was the previous 3 years. And so by the time I graduated high school, I was in like the 180s. I met my husband the summer after I graduated high school. I was 18, and I remember I want to say in the 180s, maybe close to 190 at the time that I met him. So after we started dating, he was my first, like, I would say, legitimate boyfriend. I did not have a lot of boyfriends in high school. Like, guys did not really like me like that in high school. And so being, you know, that this was my first real relationship, I feel like most people when they get into like relationships, they tend to put on like happy weight. But I would say for me and my husband, you know, we both put on quite a bit of weight when in the years following us getting together. I will say that shortly after we got together, we ended up moving in together. There was just a lot going on at the time. I was 18 and not getting along with my mom, and so I decided to move out, and we ended up getting a little apartment together, and we were trying to just figure things out on our own as like an 18 and he was 19, you know, so we were kids just trying to figure stuff out. And you know, at the time I think I was working at Sonic Drive-In, and I was also working at a candle making company, and so we were not making very much money, and just being teenagers, you know, we were just trying to get by. So literally we would get our groceries from like the Dollar Tree, and it was all just like junk food. You know, I just remember during this time eating a lot of just processed, like really heavily processed junk food. And you know, I did not really know how to cook at this age, and so yeah, we were living off of like heated up pizza and burgers and tacos, which is, you know, I eat those things now, but I feel like at this time we were definitely like binging on these items, and I don't really know what triggered the binging. It could have been, you know, just stress from like everything that was going on in my life at the time. Also, I did start my LVN program when I want to say I was 20. I started my LVN program. The LVN program was a 1-year program, but it was very stressful. Like that whole year was just super stressful. My husband was having to pick up like double shifts, and he was working a lot. So at this time he was also putting on weight. Like we were both putting on a lot of weight during this year. I remember at the start of my LVN program, I want to say I was maybe right around 200 to 220-ish. And by the time I graduated, I had ballooned up to 274. So I put on a good like close to 70 pounds in 1 year during my LVN program. So shortly after I graduated from my LVN program, I turned 21, and it was at the age of 21 that I was diagnosed with PCOS for the first time. I have always had kind of irregular periods, like even before I was diagnosed, even like in high school and stuff, I always had kind of irregular periods. Like there would be months where I would get one, months where I wouldn't. Some months they were just really light and only lasted like maybe even 1 day, like stuff like that. And so I always kind of felt like something was wrong, but at the time PCOS was not like widely talked about, and it wasn't even something I really knew about until I think I just started seeing more about it on like social media and stuff. And that's when I actually went to my doctor and told her what symptoms I was having, and I wanted to get tested for the PCOS. And you know, at first that doctor, she was very dismissive. She was the type of doctor who honestly blamed everything on weight. And she did. She told me that she thought all of my symptoms were just related to my weight, and she was just kind of rude about it. But I ended up going back a second time and pretty much like demanding that I wanted to get an ultrasound of my ovaries to see if I had cysts. And so at that point she agreed to it, and sure enough, it came back that I did in fact have cysts around my ovaries. So that, coupled with the fact that I had irregular cycles, gave me the diagnosis of PCOS. I will say after that visit, I did drop that doctor and got a new doctor, which I highly recommend. If you have a doctor who blames all of your health problems solely on your weight, get a new doctor. But that's a different topic for a different video. But yeah, so I got diagnosed with PCOS at 21, and at this point I was in the 270s. Right after I graduated from my LVN program, I decided to try to go on another weight loss journey, and I remember I actually documented that journey on YouTube. I still have the videos on this channel actually. I think I started this channel in like 2016, and I did start this channel with that initial weight loss journey that I went on after my LVN program. But I did put those videos on private just because, yeah, they're pretty bad. So I was successful in that I did manage to get down to, I want to say it was anywhere from like 240 to 250 during this little period, and then shortly after that I went back up. I think I got back up to like the 280s after that, and I kind of went up and down. Like I started working as an LVN, and I've kind of talked about this briefly, but I worked in a lot of like long-term care facilities and just honestly really shitty jobs, shitty places to work at that are really stressful to work at. And I think that contributed a lot to, first of all, my depression that I've dealt with since I was a teenager, but I definitely have had periods of time where it's gotten worse and better. I think during this period where I was just working as an LVN, I was definitely kind of going through a depressive episode, and I did put on a lot of weight. So fast forward to 2019, I decided I wanted to go back to school to get my RN, and so I decided to sign up for a 2-year ADN program. I was 24, I want to say, when I started this program. At the time that I started my RN program, I want to say I was close to 300, if not maybe over 300 pounds at that point. I had put on quite a bit of weight, and once I started my program, for like the first half of it, I continued to put on weight. So I obviously was doing a lot of yo-yo dieting during all of these years, and I was tracking my weight on an app that I still have on my phone. It was the Healthy app, and I was looking back at my weigh-ins. So by 2020, I had gotten up to 317 pounds, and I stayed around that range for a good little bit. It wasn't until April of 2021 that I decided to start a 75 medium challenge, which I actually still have the little challenge that I made for myself. I based it off the 75 hard, but I kind of modified it to be more like doable for me at that time. But during this time, I actually had started an Instagram, and I documented my 75-day thing on there. And I was pretty successful. At the start of my challenge, I was at 331 pounds, and by the end of it, I had gotten down to 290. And after I finished the challenge, I continued my journey, and I did end up losing a good 80 pounds before I graduated from my RN program. Besides my current journey, this was the one journey that I lost the most amount of weight, and I also did that completely on my own. I wasn't on any medications or anything like that, and so I was honestly feeling pretty good about myself. And I think my lowest I got down to during that time was in the 250s to 260s. So in like September, October of 2021, I had just graduated from my RN program. I was down 80 pounds. I was feeling good. We actually were living, me and my husband were both at the time engaged, but we were living with my mom just because I was not able to work as much when I was going through my RN program. So we did end up moving in with her like midway through my program. And that helped a lot. Honestly, not having to work as much and being able to just focus on school, I think helped a lot with my anxiety and also my depression. I really do believe like my depression was linked to a lot of just working and going to school, and I did that a lot. You know, my LVN program, I worked throughout my whole program, and it is a lot, and I think that definitely took a toll on me and kind of led to some of the binge eating that I was doing. Like I said though, I was on a high at the end of 2021, feeling good, feeling like I was just gonna continue my weight loss journey. By January of 2022, I found out that I was pregnant, and it was completely unplanned and unexpected. I mean, I had PCOS, I still have PCOS, but so honestly, I at that point didn't even know for sure if I could get pregnant. I kind of suspected that maybe I couldn't, just because, you know, we weren't always using protection and I wasn't on birth control, and we'd been together for, you know, like 7 years at that point and not gotten pregnant. So I was really shocked when I found out, and at the time that I found out I was pregnant, I was, I think, in the 250s. And so while we were both really excited and really happy, and it was a really, you know, happy thing, it also, part of me was concerned because I knew that I was still needing to lose a lot of weight. And, you know, honestly, at this time, I was still kind of in that mindset of I wanted to get under 200 pounds before I tried to get pregnant. And I kind of talked about this in a previous video about like that type of mindset where I put off a lot of things because of my weight, and getting pregnant was one of those things. So when I found out I was pregnant at 250 pounds, it definitely was like not going according to plan, and I was definitely terrified that I was just going to put on a ton of weight, and yeah, whatever. So fast forward though, couple months, we ended up finding out that there was some genetic issues with the baby, and basically we ended up making the decision to terminate the pregnancy. I was 14 weeks at the time that we terminated, and that whole experience honestly was very traumatic, and yeah, it really set me back physically and like mentally. I went into a pretty bad depressive episode after that. And yeah, just the way it landed, the timing and everything, the way it happened, because we do live in Texas, and so during this time obviously the abortion ban was in place, and we ended up having to travel out of state, and that just added a whole other thing. And then I ended up getting sick afterwards because there was some complications, and yeah, it was a whole fucking thing. And honestly, like I said, I feel like that is what really triggered a major depressive episode, in which I went on to gain about 60 of the 80 pounds that I had previously lost. So after that whole thing happened, shortly after it, me and my husband actually got married. And yeah, I could make a whole nother video about that whole experience and how my weight like went up after that, because it was honestly just a whole thing, but I'm not going to get into details in this video about that. But yeah, so basically when it was all said and done, I ended up getting back up to 315 pounds. That is when I decided I was going to restart my weight loss journey again. And during this phase of trying to lose weight, I did end up getting down to the 270s. And I was doing this all on my own. I was not on any medication or anything. I was just doing the same things I had done when I had lost the 80 pounds, which was a calorie deficit and working out. I did get down to the 270s before I found out I was pregnant again in January of 2023. And again, this pregnancy was not planned. Yeah, we were not trying. And honestly, again, I was like, just started my weight loss journey over again. I was like a good 40 pounds down, feeling confident, feeling like I had a hold on things. And then I honestly kind of felt like a setback. You know, that sounds terrible. Don't get it wrong. Me and my husband were both thrilled, and obviously we have our beautiful daughter now, and I would not change anything for the world. But yeah, I will definitely say, like, the moment I found out that I was pregnant, there was this sense of kind of like just a pit in my stomach, because I knew that this was going to put my weight loss journey at a standstill and potentially make me gain weight, thus making it harder to lose weight once I was not pregnant. And I was absolutely right. Fast forward through my pregnancy, by the end of it, I did end up gaining a good 70 pounds. I gave birth in September of 2023 at over 340 pounds. And I did document a little bit of my pregnancy here on this channel. I have some vlogs that I did from back then. But yeah, when I look at some of those videos, I was huge. And I mean, like, when you're pregnant, you're big and you're, you know, bloated and swollen just from being pregnant. But like that combined with being 340 pounds, like, I didn't even recognize myself. And yeah, that was really hard. But we got through it. We had our beautiful daughter, and yeah, I had her in September. I took the rest of 2023 to recover postpartum and really just trying to mentally prepare myself and make a game plan, because I knew that I was about to embark on a weight loss journey that I was hoping would be the last weight loss journey that I would need to embark on. I guess I should back up and just say that when I went through our first pregnancy and everything that ended up unfolding with that, after I was recovered and healed from that experience, I did go back into my weight loss journey with the pure intentions of losing the weight that I needed to lose, getting at least under 200 pounds in my mind. I still thought I was going to do that so that I could try to have another baby, because I feel like prior to getting pregnant the first time around, I honestly wasn't even sure if I wanted to have kids. I was kind of still on the fence about it. And then I feel like once, we got pregnant, and then it kind of felt like it was taken away in a sense. I mean, obviously we made that choice, but it, everything that happened, it just kind of made me realize that I do want to be a mom. And in fact, I want to be a mom so bad that I am willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen, including getting my health in order. And so I was pretty serious after that. So that's when I was able to lose the little bit of weight I did. So once we found out we were pregnant the second time, I remember thinking in my head, after I have this baby, I am going to get this mother effing weight off, and I don't care what I need to do. And it was actually at that point that I had made the mental decision that I was going to get on a GLP-1 after I was done with my pregnancy, because I had heard about them a little bit. My mom had actually gotten on one through the same clinic that I currently go through, and she had told me about it and said maybe I should try it out. And I was always kind of against it just because they were really new and I didn't know a lot about them, and I was honestly kind of scared to do injections, and so I really was kind of against them at first. But I would say, yeah, once I found out I was pregnant at 270 pounds and I knew I was probably going to gain weight and get back up where I didn't want to be, I decided that after I had this baby, I was going to get on a GLP-1, and I was going to use that as a tool to finally get myself to a healthy weight. And I am happy to say that that is exactly what I have done. I have stuck to that plan. So on January 1st of 2024, I did just that. I took my first injection of tirzepatide, and I went to the gym for the first time since I had been postpartum, and I started my journey. And since then I have lost 144 pounds, and it has been like the hardest but also the most rewarding thing I have done for myself. And I still have a ways to go. I want to get down to 139. That would put me in a healthy weight range for my height. I'm only 5'3", and so that is kind of my goal for now, is just I want to be in the 130s. And for the first time in a decade, we are so fucking close to getting there. And I just feel like, I don't know, when I look back at everything I've gone through for the past 10 years, just all of the trauma and all of the depression and all of just everything, it just feels like this past year and a half, almost 2 years, is when I have finally made myself a priority. And I feel like that has really been the difference and why I've been able to do it this time. That, along with a GLP-1, obviously is helpful, but aside from the GLP-1, it still takes a lot of fucking effort to lose the amount of weight that I've lost. Like, to lose a good amount of weight, even with a GLP-1, it takes a certain amount of dedication and effort and consistency. And I feel like it has honestly just changed me as a person. So overall, I would say that, the reasons I got fat are, obviously people would say you were just eating too much, and yes, I was binge eating, and that is why I got fat. But as far as why I started binge eating, honestly, I feel like that's more nuanced, and there's a lot of different reasons that people do what they do. For me, I feel like a lot of it had to do with my depression, and like I said, I've dealt with depression on and off since I was a teenager. I've been medicated for it. I am currently medicated for it. That is another thing I will say, is that when I started my tirzepatide journey, I actually did get back on an antidepressant around the same time, and I've been on that antidepressant since then, and I think that has played a major key factor in my success as well, because when you are depressed, like clinically depressed, you honestly do not have the mental energy, but also just the physical energy to get up and to do what you need to do to lose weight. And so I feel like if you're someone who is actually dealing with depression to a point that it's affecting your ability to get up and do things, then I think looking to get help for that can be very beneficial for a weight loss journey. And I noticed this even with when I had lost 80 pounds in the past. I also had been on the same antidepressant. I got off of it during my pregnancy just because I didn't want to be on anything when I was pregnant. But yeah, I've been on Wellbutrin on and off for the past several years, and it has honestly been a lifesaver for me. And so yeah, I think definitely don't underestimate how much mental health can play a role in weight gain and weight loss. I feel like this video was a little bit long-winded, but hopefully that kind of paints a better picture of how I got to where I'm at and the past 10 years and how my weight has fluctuated. I think I would really like to do a video just going over like the month-by-month progression on my actual GLP-1 journey, just because I do have that whole process documented and I think it'd be interesting to talk about. So let me know if that's something you guys might be interested in. But other than that, we are gonna do an emoji for the week. If you made it this far, leave a butterfly emoji in the comment section to let me know. And yeah, other than that, I really do appreciate you guys for watching. I will see y'all in my next one.